Good morning. This is Rich Sierra, president of the Florida Small Business Legal Center. This is episode 31 of Business SOAT podcast. We're very excited to continue our conversation with Mike Sierra and Carolyn Castillo from emailonperformance.com and flypad.com. Welcome to the show again.
Yeah, flypadgolf.com, but yes.
Flypadgolf.com. Okay, thanks for correcting me. Yeah.
Got to get the URLs right.
Yes, very, very important. So in our last segment, we talked about what makes partnership work, and you told us about the values that you had and the values that you came up with, which are phenomenal. I mean, as a couple and also as a business partners as well. We talk about trust, loyalty, religion, family, commitment, lifestyle, honesty, self-discipline, self-improvement, finances, and we also added, the golden rule, vision, because, without vision, you will not be able to move forward, and that vision as business partners and life partners is very important. Something that I also mentioned is that one of the things that I've seen successful partnerships is the respect that you have for each other. And I think respect is extremely important, whether it's in a business partnership, but also in a personal partnership as well. But I also want to talk to you today in this segment about your business and about clickable impact. And I know both of you are experts in digital marketing. And I did a marketing segment just a few weeks ago on principles of marketing and what I believe in. And that's kind of my passion as well, as you know. And from my perspective, but I think from your perspective, especially working with digital marketing, and you have an agency, I want to get your take and also advice for our listeners about if they want to get started with digital marketing, how do they begin? They want to do social media, how should they start? So let's start. Carolyn, tell me about Clickable Impact. What is Clickable Impact?
Yeah, so Clickable Impact is our marketing agency. We've done all kinds of internet marketing. Our number one offer is called Email on Performance, where we do email marketing for commission for e-commerce businesses all over the world. We got clients in Middle East, Thailand, in the United States, Europe, and we do it all day, every day. And it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Mike?
Yeah, so Clickable Impact started as a full service marketing agency that really did anything between B2B lead gen or e-commerce. And then over the course of years, learning.
It's been 6 years now since we had the business.
Over the course of 6 years, we learned that our strongest service was email marketing because it was something that we can continuously do predictably and efficiently and provide credible results for clients. So we niched down and focused just on that.
So tell me more about that.
So we used to do, as a marketing agency, a lot of business owners would come to us, and they come to us for two reasons. They either need help growing their business or they need help saving their business.
Dun, dun, dun.
And originally, we didn't know that. We didn't know when we first got started out. We're just like, hey, we have all these skills. We know how to run ads. We know how to get leads to get sales. So like, yeah, well, let's do your marketing. So it started with, hey, let's run your ads. And then we're like, oh man, your website's not great. So let me do your website. And then it turns into, are you guys following up with these leads? I can't get you sales if you're not following up. All right, let me do email marketing for you. And then it's like, I'm doing your email marketing, I'm getting you leads, and then you're not great at sales at all. So let me try to help you even more. So then what ends up happening is it started out as a relationship where I'm supposed to get you leads or sales for your e-com store, but then it turns into me running your business. So you just outsourced your business to me. Because if you think about what a business is transactions. If I said, hey, I did business with this person, that I'm doing a transaction with you. So without transactions, you don't have a business. And if you're outsourcing the transactions to me as a service provider, you basically outsourced your business to me. So then but I don't own your business. So you as a business owner, what are you doing? Are you doing customer service, product development? Like what happened? So we learned to stop doing that because there was reasons for success that we were not having on certain accounts because of things outside of our control, whether the product wasn't good or how they were operating the business wasn't great. So that became very stressful. And then we're like, all right, no more taking over someone's business and having them outsource everything to us. Let's just handle one piece of this, the marketing system that we know we can do predictably well and repeatably well. That's low cost for us, but adds tremendous value to the customer.
Tremendous profit. Because if you think of all the marketing budget that goes into ads and creating contents and, marketing is expensive nowadays, right? So how do we squeeze more juice out of the orange? We do email marketing. The email doesn't cost anything to make other than the labor and strategy and all that. But you have to pay Facebook $1 to get in front of any eyes, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's where we said, okay, email is it. And that also, we didn't start the agency too, just to have an agency. We started the agency because it was supposed to be a vehicle where we not only sharpened our monetization skills every day, created a cash flow vehicle, but we also were able to find deals that we could eventually find brands that we could eventually own and build and exit, which is where, it comes full circle in my venture capital background. I said, wow, investors really suck at due diligence. You can't really tell what the company's doing. But if we're able to do like a quasi deal with a brand through the agency and really being able to feel them out, then we can figure out how can we eventually own this brand, right? So you look at Clickable Impact as kind of like our hub where we can, just have a really good foundation for monetization, and also kind of our holding company where we can do deals like Flightpath that eventually we can build to sell.
Tell me about Flightpath.
Flightpath was our first home run deal. So we had about 5-ish brands that we tried to scale. All of them kerplunked, but Flightpath. So Flightpath eventually was able to scale. We tried an almond protein powder. We were going through it this morning on the way driving here to the podcast studio. We tried an almond protein powder, a skincare brand, a sunglasses brand, a footwear brand, and eventually we tried Flightpath. Each investment into each company costed, 5-figure investment. So it wasn't cheap, but we were able to use our marketing knowledge to test it out quickly so we could figure out in 6 months, is this deal going to scale? And within 6 months, what happened with Flightpath?
Yeah. So with 6 months after launching it, we had done 500,000 in sales. And then we negotiated with the inventor at the time to acquire 51% of the business.
Yeah. So we started it as a licensing deal. So, something to get our foot in the door and try this out. We said 6 months, we're going to buy your product at wholesale. You're going to shut down all of your website stuff because it's not bringing in sales anyway. And we're going to start a new website with a new co and just buy it wholesale from you. Let's see what happens in 6 months. It was a hit in 6 months. Was it profitable? Not yet. It was a very small net loss. By the end of the first year, we were at a $60,000 loss, so that was like 600,000, 700,000 in sales, a little bit of a loss, but we knew this thing had legs, and we knew with a few tweaks, we could make it profitable and scale. So that's when we decided to go into, business partnership with the inventor to say, hey, we're ready to scale this.
That is awesome. Mike told me about the, how do you got to meet, Danny Whalen? Tell me the story about how you got to learn about Flightpath. That's a very interesting story.
So Caroline was actually the person who met Danny first. So Caroline.
Yeah. I was at the UCF Joust. We love UCF. We speak at UCF, University of Central Florida. We speak there all the time. So we're in the community. I was at the Joust, which is their annual business plan competition, where if you're a student at UCF and you have an idea, you can pitch it and then win money. Right. So we always usually attend those things. I was attending there. Danny was there. Somehow we struck up a conversation. I said, what are you up to? Asking all the students what ideas they have tinkering. And he said, hey, I have this golf tee, so it was a little piece of plastic size of your hand, like normal golf tee size. And it's like, that's interesting. Let me bring this to the office and figure out what we want to do. I said, hey, it's this budget to market it if you want, or maybe we do a performance deal. Shrugged my shoulders because I was like, maybe we should do this venture capital performance deal thing later. We have a good thing going with the agency. But I brought it to Mike, and Mike looked at it. And what did you say, babe?
Yeah. So when Danny walked into the office, he walks in, he's like, hey, I'm here to see Caroline. And I'm like, all right, she's in her office. She's finishing up a call. And so he pulls out this piece of plastic out of his pocket. And it was the most interesting, unique golf tee I've ever seen. He's like, yeah, I have a patent on this, the utility patent for the fact. And he's like, I have 7,000 in sales and no money.
$7,000, not even units.
Yeah, $7,000 in sales, which he got. He sold it to a distributor one time who had put it in the PGA Superstore, right? And it was tanking there. It was not doing well at all. And I looked at it and I was like, okay, I think that this product could be something that all golfers would go crazy over. And I remember that I had a professor in college who wanted to bring like a group of students to China to go and look for small products like this. And my professor said, you want to find a product that is easy to manufacture, small, basically made out of plastic, something that's cheap to manufacture, that has incredible margins that you can sell millions of. And so when I saw this golf tee, I remembered that and I was like, this may be that product. I think that's part of like what influenced me to really convince Caroline to take this on as a performance deal.
Yeah, so this was the 5th project we tried, and I was like, are you sure? Because we busted a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of resources. Maybe we should do, just the agency thing for a bit until we, get on common grounds here. And Mike was really, really about it. He really thought he had a really good instinct. And sometimes you just kind of got to trust your business partners that they know if they really feel strongly about something. If it's a 10 for Mike and like a 2 or 3, I'm not that strong about it, then I'm going to go with Mike's side on it. Because if he really feels instinctual about it, then let's make a move on it. So we did.
Yeah, I mean, every business venture has a limit of risk. And we're never going to be 100% sure of anything. That's why we are business owners, because we like taking risk, but it's a calculated risk. And the way I look at it, if you're, anything over 80%, you might want to give it a shot, at least think about it, depending what type of risk we're talking about. But we're never going to be at 100%. And pretty much, especially in business, and we're trying to new marketing strategy, a new venture, anything that we're trying to pursue that requires us to invest money, it's not a perfect science.
Yeah.
If it was, everybody will be doing it. So,
exactly.
So we got to start somewhere. But that's a great story that you talk about, seeing an opportunity and in essence following your instincts and listening to remember what your professor told you, Mike, that what a product to look for. You say, this meets the criteria. Plus, you had somebody who had a utility patent. Yeah. And at some point, I believe that he would have continued. He would have found somebody else if it was not you. The patent has a lot of clout.
Yeah, and I think that's something I learned from venture capital. Every time we looked at a deal, we would decide it with the board, right, of investors. We would look at, just different applications. And if it had a patent, it was probably like 50% more likely to get approved, to get pitched in front of a group, because investors just like patents. It's more barrier to entry, So I looked at it, I'm like, okay, it has a patent. It's worth exploring more. Let's see what Mike has to say. And then bam, it happened.
That's awesome. Congratulations, by the way. Yeah, I want to go back to, we're talking about email on performance. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I think a lot of what's happening in the space right now in e-commerce and in general is, like we said before, it's really expensive to market your business. Email marketing is the best profit channel you're ever going to have, at least for the next 5-10 years, until either Google doesn't allow us to email anymore, unless there's a technical change. But we really found our niche in that. And what we do in the service is we create automations, we create campaigns that allow the business to make, an extra 10, 20, 30% on top of whatever they're making top line. So let's say an e-commerce store is making $100K a month. We could probably help them make an extra, go to 110, 120, 130,000 or more just from doing email marketing and text message marketing correct. So a lot of business owners, they think of traffic as being very important. Traffic meaning, let me run some ads so I can make sure I'm getting website visits, right? But email marketing is always a second thought. We're kind of like the janitor in the office. Everybody wants a clean office, but nobody wants to clean, right? Everybody wants email marketing. Nobody wants to do it because it's a lot of freaking work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
We found a perfect process where we can, implement our system and make profit happen, more profit.
So my understanding, what makes a good candidate for, so business owner listening today say, you know what, I'm selling a product. What makes a good candidate for email and performance?
The first question you have to ask is, does my business model work already? If you can put $1 into Facebook and get $2 out, great. We're going to be a force multiplier where we can probably help you get $4 out instead of $2 out in Facebook. So you have to have a traffic channel that's already working. You have to have a business that's already working. You can't just use email marketing if you're an e-commerce store. You need really like 4 things to be working really well. 1, your traffic has to be working really well. Meaning if I put $1 into Facebook and get $2 out every day consistently, that means traffic is working well. The second thing that you need is a really good website that converts. Nowadays, it's just a 1-page landing page. We do thousands of units a month on flightpathgolf.com. We just need one really good lander that talks about whatever hero product or bundle of products that you have. And then you can sell them more products through email. The next thing that you need is content. You need really good content, videos, graphics, 3D animations that work really well and convert online through your ads and on your website. And then the final thing, the 4th thing is email marketing. So once traffic, content, and your website are working really well, then you bring in email and text message marketing to make sure that we're bringing as much profit in as possible.
So somebody calls you and said, okay, you know what, I'm interested in, I sell, haircare products, for example. So I have a couple of clients that sell haircare products, and I'm interested in email and performance. What type of evaluation would they go through?
Yeah, so a lot of times a client will have Klaviyo or MailChimp or whatever email software. We'll get access to that. We'll kind of look under the hood to make sure there's no red flags. Because you could have like 100,000 emails, but are they active? Right? What have you sent them in the past? Are you just sending them discounts? Are half of them inactive? Do you have a domain issue, like a domain health issue? Those are big red flags that we want to make sure we're looking at first so we can make sure we're all going to make money together. Because remember, we're paid in commission. So we want to make sure we can actually scale the email marketing.
You say domain health issue. What is that?
Mike, you want to go into that?
Yeah. So domain health issue is when you're sending emails, Google may flag your domain as spam because you were never intentional with your sending. You were never segmenting your list, removing people who were not opening your emails. Or maybe what you're doing is you're just sending pictures that say buy my stuff and you're not actually writing any like written content within the email. So Google takes in all these different factors and then they're going to evaluate your domain and basically say, hey, you're sending spam. We're going to flag your domain and we're going to give you a score, right? And the lower that score, the more emails are going to end up in spam than actually in the inbox. Okay. And that's a lengthy process for us to fix. It can be fixed, but it takes a long time.
So when we get all these emails that come in and basically all of a sudden some of them go to the spam folder, it's because Google already flagged them.
Yeah. Google has evaluated you as a sender and said, hey, you're not sending quality content. And the people who you're sending it to don't open or like your content because they're not clicking, they're not engaging with it. And because of those different reasons, we're going to remove it from the inbox to help their customer. Because Gmail, right, Google provides a service to the customer.
Okay, and so they show up in junk. They're basically dead on the water. They're really in bad shape. It's
kind of like a train, right? So it's once you get a train moving, it's very hard to stop. So if your train is moving and you have a domain that's already flagged by Google, it is hard to get it back. It takes a long time to stop that train, fix it, and then move it. So for clients that we have fixed the domain health for, it takes at least 90 days, maybe even 4 months until we can get the domain health back and then get the sales back up.
Okay. No, that's a great point. One of the beauty I think from your system is that you take all the risk. If they're a good candidate, they meet the criteria, and then they based on your analysis, your evaluation of that business and the product, and if they, you take the risk. You're basically investing your money, your own time, and you get paid basically on a commission over and above after they meet their sales. Explain how it's work in terms of your commission structure, or how do you get paid on email on performance?
Right. So it's different. It depends on what size you're at. So if you're doing over 500,000 a month in email marketing revenue, or if you're doing under 500,000 a month in email marketing revenue, we usually just take a flat commission. So we usually take 14% of whatever dollar that comes in email sales. So for usually 99.9% of e-commerce stores can't afford that because there's usually some pretty healthy margins there. And we're finding new revenue that they never had before. If it's a brand that's a little bit bigger, they're doing, over 500,000 a month in email marketing revenue, then we'll usually do like a smaller retainer than we normally would charge, plus a percentage commission above whatever average in revenue. So it makes it fair for everybody. But usually it's just a straight commission.
But that's something you discussed with them beforehand after you did evaluation.
Yep.
There's no real cost for them to call you and evaluate their business.
Right.
If they have an e-commerce store, they're selling products, they're a potential candidate.
Correct.
Very important. If you were going to give advice to, say, a business owner who is looking to begin advertising and doing digital marketing, what advice would you give them? Say they don't know anything. I know it's just a lot to unpack here, but how does somebody get started? At least, doing something is better than nothing, and done is better than perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Some business owners say, I really, I have my, Google My Business, I have a couple of social media, but how can they get started?
So I guess it all starts, because we get asked this question a lot, because we have a lot of friends who are like, damn, how do I start a business? They want to leave their corporate job and maybe it's not exciting for them anymore.
Well,
so
they need to buy my book first.
Yes, they do. Any new entrepreneurs, please buy Business SOS first. If I had that book before my first partnership, which Mike is not my first business partner, I had 3 or 4 partnerships that went south. I would have loved to have that book. So that's the first step. Second step is follow whatever Mike's about to say.
Yeah. So step one in starting any business for anybody is, do you have an offer or product? And do you know who the customer is? Because that's number one. Because we talk to a lot of inventors or people in startups, and they'll build a product for themselves, and they won't talk to different people about their idea until they've invested lots of money to bring it to market. And I think that's a huge mistake because they're afraid that somebody's going to steal their idea. And most people do not have the time or effort or bandwidth to really try to steal your idea. But what you're doing by talking to people about your idea is you're getting market validation. Who is the customer? Because by the time somebody comes to me with an idea, they're like, hey, I need to market this business. And I'm like, who's the customer? And they're like, oh, we don't have any customers. And I'm like, well, how did you know to come up with this product? And they're like, well, I saw that I needed this product. So, and then businesses typically fail because they made a product for them and not for the customer. You're in business to serve someone else. So that's number one, have a product or offer. The second thing is, do you have a way to sell this thing? How are you going to actually deliver it? Is it a service that you're performing for someone, or is it a product that you're going to ship? Do you actually have something to sell?
That's very important. You mentioned one of the things that I'm looking at. Which chapter is it? I think it's number 5. Yeah, 5. In Business SOS, one of the business mistakes business owners makes is lack of knowledge how the business is going to make money.
Horrible.
And it is astonishing to me how many business owners go into business and they just sign leases, expensive commercial leases, and when I ask the question, have you done a business plan? They say no. And I'm like, you need to do that first. You need to do a simulation. Just because you have a good idea, that does not mean that it's going to work on paper.
Yeah.
You got to do a simulation how, who you're going to sell to, as Mike said, and how, what is going to be your profit margin? Who are your customers? What are the demographics? If you're providing a service, who are you serving in terms of your service product? Who are you selling it to? How are you going to sell it? What is the capital requirements that you need to get to launch this product? Those things have to be put in a business plan, and there are many on the web that you can download, and various templates, and they're better than nothing. It's just simply they're questions and answers that will trigger you to think about going into business before you actually go into business. That's so important, because if people don't do it, then they go with emotionally, they get involved, they're excited, and they crash and burn.
Right. I think it's also mindset, like we had a call center that we were looking at hiring, and they were supposed to be the best of the best for FlightPath because we're getting influx of customer service. And we thought maybe they would want to do a 90-day agreement, something like that. They asked for a 12-month commitment for $3,000 a month, 12 months. That's a lot of money just for a call center. Yeah. So if entrepreneurs can think, how can I do that a little bit less risky? It might take a little more work, but how do I do it a little bit less risky? Here's the option B, right? We just hire a few people for hourly, right? For them to do customer service, and we just build an SOP for that. And that's what we did. Now we don't have to worry about an extra $3,000 a month in expenses, because it's not just $3,000 a month. It's $3,000 a month in profit we have to come up with.
Yes.
Right? And if our profit margin is only 10, let's say it's 10%, hypothetically speaking, we got to come up with $30,000 a month in revenue to just justify that.
It's to pay the call center, yeah.
Right. And I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs think that way. $3,000 a month is not equal to $3,000 a month in revenue to make that whole. It's $30,000 or whatever your margins are. It's times whatever your margins are.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one of the mistakes people make. And usually when they're very, very green, I send them to SCORE. I said, get a copy of my book and go to SCORE. And that's the service that is provided free to business owners, and it's nationwide, that gives them, assign them a mentor and gives them guidance on how to start a business. Because if businesses start, you need a foundation for your business. If you don't have the proper foundations, you're not going to make it. This is really hard. And even when you know what you're doing, things go south. Things will happen out of your control. You need to know how to navigate those. But somebody starting out, and the mistakes they make is they don't know how to, they buy businesses. People buy businesses out of emotional reaction. And I see that with couples, husband and wife. They just want to, they're empty nesters. They decide they have some money in the 401k. They want to buy a business because they think it's going to be easy money. And I'm like, no.
Good Lord.
And I've seen, unfortunately, really bad decisions that people make, including using, borrowing money from their houses to guarantee an SBA loan. It's just the problems compound, and then they do it on their own. They buy businesses on their own without an attorney. They don't do the proper due diligence. Then they find out that, very seldom when you buy a business, it'll be exactly the information that you provided to you and what your expectations. When you buy it, very seldom will be exactly as you thought it was going to be. It's not. There's something, it's like sell a house. You buy houses. People paint it, people fix the, little cracks, but something is going to happen in the house that you did not know about, you did not find out, and the owner did not know.
Yeah.
So nobody committed fraud, nobody misrepresented. It's simply that it's not what you expected. So in a business is very different because the due diligence has to be very, very clear. And even when you do diligence, something is going to happen and you don't know. But they do that.
Yeah, that reminded me. So one of my mentors early on taught me that he said he's made the most money he's ever made was by trying to reduce risk rather than trying to maximize profit. And a lot of people will make these decisions trying to cut corners to reduce their costs right? To maximize basically their potential. Like, hey, I'm not going to hire a lawyer because the lawyer is too expensive, right? Or I'm going to skip over some of these due diligence questions. Maybe I'm not going to hire a CPA because that's too expensive when I buy this business. And realistically, what they're doing is they're increasing their risk. And by increasing their risk, that will ultimately hurt them in the end. Because if you can just reduce your risk, you're more likely to make a lot more profit.
Yeah, and it's true. Or they decide not to go through with it. Which, and I tell my clients, and I said in the podcast, if it does not work on paper, it will not work in real life. Spend the time, do a business plan, do a simulation, get an Excel spreadsheet, kind of plug in the numbers. If you have a large lease, and then if you have to know how much money, how many sales you got to make to pay that lease, meet your expenses, pay yourself a salary, run that through a spreadsheet. I mean, there are forms you can do. It's just simple math. Just add them there and figure that out. And if it does not work on paper, most likely it's not going to work. So the worst case scenario is that you spend maybe up to 2 hours working out some numbers and you decided not to go through with it. That's all. The worst can happen. That's it. But if you decide to go through with it, sign the lease, and then you want to do the business plan, then I'll try to get you out of the lease, which is nearly impossible.
Yeah, actually, with FlightPath, the first thing that we did when we were evaluating whether to take that on as a licensing, partnership, we did exactly that. We put all the offers and all the numbers down on a spreadsheet, and we figured out, all right, if this is the cost of the product, this is the cost of shipping, here's how much it's going to cost for advertising. And we went through to figure out what we had to price this at and what type of bundled offers to get our average order value up. So basically AOV, average order value, is how much a customer will averagely spend on your e-com store, right? Whether it's $40, $60. And then that helped us understand what we had to price and sell this thing at, or what it would have to actually convert at for us to actually make money. So if those numbers didn't work out, like from the very beginning, we would not have taken this thing on.
And we're constantly evaluating those numbers. Like, we're looking at launching in Europe. Whenever you do something inside of your business, you always have to evaluate it as a new business decision. Is this going to work? There's different KPIs and metrics that we look at, for the agency, which is a completely different business model than FlightPath, right? What's the monthly profit we're making? What's the net new business we're getting, new clients every month, right? And then what's our churn, right, of current clients that we have? Those are the 3 KPIs that we use to make financial decisions, strategic decisions, just within the agency, and then FlightPath has its own separate KPIs that we look at too, that help us determine, whatever financial decisions, maybe a new partnership, how do we structure it legally, things like that, because KPIs, you always have to evaluate those things when you start out the business. But we have a meeting with our finance team weekly where we're tracking things, we're looking at things all the time, because especially our business is on the internet, both businesses, agency and FlightPath, we're looking at those numbers and seeing how they're changing every month to month, week to week, so the financials don't stop at the beginning too.
Yeah. You also got to make decisions, quick decisions. And as I learned, as you grow, you got to make bigger decisions faster. You cannot, if something is not going right, you got to pivot quickly.
Yes.
It's going to go bad if you let it linger and not do something about it, in the short term. Anything else you'd like to share with us? Things we talked about? I think you mentioned something about one of the advice you told me about finding your equal.
Yeah. This is kind of part 2 of the golden rule, which is, finding your vision. Last segment, we talked about the 10 values of the partnership. So if you didn't watch that, go back and watch our previous episode with Rich. I think one really good piece of advice that my parents gave me when I was growing up, my mom and I would pray at night. One of our prayers when I was a teenager, we would pray that whoever I married, they would always learn their lessons and they would mature like I would mature, like when I grew up, and then after that, my mom would say, Caroline, always make sure whoever you date, make sure they're your equal. The way they make decisions, their intellect, their ambitions, always find your equal, So that was like one theme that I kept in mind when I was dating people, when Mike and I started dating. And that's who I really found. And that's also really important when you're going into personal relationships, Not only do I find my equal, and obviously we're different people. We're not the same people, but we found each other we have like the same type of everything, like skills and things like that, ambitions, all those things.
Maureen gave you great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited that you guys came. I joined them. Finally, we got you here on my my podcast. I think it's the longest conversation we ever had, right?
Yeah, maybe. I know we nerd out on marketing all the time. So we always say, hey, what's the new technique you got since I last saw you?
No, this is very exciting. I'm glad you joined. We learned something new about each other. So that's always great. And, obviously I'm very proud of both of you. I love you both. And I'm very excited that you're here with us. And, come back. I think you will have great things going to happen for you.
I had a great time.
Professionally and personally. But thank you for joining the show.
I also want to add it's an honor to be your future daughter-in-law too. And I also want to say aside from being family, I've really enjoyed working with you. And just for the audience, Rich has helped us with all of our legal counsel, with all of our businesses. He's been very instrumental. So just on a business level, if you're looking at working with Rich in any capacity, I trust him with anything. He's done a great job with all of our transactions. So thank you so much for all your mentorship, your legal help, your regular help.
Thank you.
So we love you and we appreciate you.
Thank you. Love you too. It's always fun to see you grow. You guys are growing a lot in the business, so I'm very excited. Yeah. So let me close the show. If anybody wants to, first of all, how can people reach you? Right.
If you want to reach out to the agency, you can go to emailonperformance.com. If you want to reach out to Mike or myself personally, you can go on LinkedIn, Mike Sierra. Just look up Mike Sierra on LinkedIn, or myself, Caroline Castile. You can look us up on LinkedIn or Instagram, YouTube. If you want to look up our Flight Path Golf brand more, you can go to flightpathgolf.com. You can buy our products right on there. And we'll be happy to help if you have any marketing needs, or if you just want to grab a coffee, ask some questions. We've been given a lot. Our mentors have given us a lot, so we want to pay it forward, help answer your questions too. So.
That is awesome. We're also going to have a link to your website in our show notes, both in the podcast and also on the YouTube channel as well.
Awesome.
So people will be able to reach you that way. So if anybody wants to reach me, remember you have a legal question you'd like me to answer for you, and if I select it, you get a free copy of our book, Business SOS, 8 Common Legal Mistakes Business Owners Make and How to Avoid Them. Send me an email at richsierra.com. If you want to learn more about the legal services that I offer, our website is Florida Small Business Legal Center.com. And we're on Facebook at FSB Legal. YouTube channel is youtube.com at Richard Sierra. We're on X at Rich_Sierra. Instagram channel, that's FSB Legal. Our number is 866-842-5202. Remember the book, Business SOS, 8 Common Legal Mistakes Business Owners Make and How to Avoid Them. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can ask for your local bookstore. Remember, you can follow us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you enjoy your shows. Remember to subscribe as well. Until next week, this is Rich Sierra. Remember my goal, let's help you succeed.